He's a CPA, but don't call him an accountant. He founded Xen Accounting in 2013, first of its kind in Canada as a 100% cloud-based firm. Following its acquisition in 2018, founded Future Firms. And so built from scratch to sell 5 years and actionable advice to help improve firms when it comes to technology, marketing, and practice management. So we're very excited to have Ryan speak for the next 30 minutes. Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. I'm just going to make sure. All right. Could everybody see my screen? Could everybody hear me okay? Someone could just type. Okay, awesome. Jeff, good to see you as well. Another fellow Canadian. Chris, thank you very much for that introduction. I see a few familiar faces. Roger, nice to see you. All right. So my name is Ryan Lazanis. Really happy to be here today. I'm looking forward to speaking to you all about how to scale an accounting firm in 2021. And we got lots to talk about, so I'm going to dive right into today's presentation. All right. So a bit of an agenda to get started. I'll talk just a few moments about myself, letting you know about my journey, give you a bit of context for where I'm coming from and how it's going to relate to you and how it relates to scaling an accounting firm in 2021. I'll then spend just a moment or two talking about what people aspire to when they run an accounting firm. What are those personal goals? What are those aspirations? Why do people start a business in the first place? And then I'll talk a little bit about how those goals and aspirations often lead to a growth mindset and how that growth mindset leads to something I'm going to call the professional services growth trap. I'll talk about what that growth trap is, how it leads us contrary to our goals and aspirations. And then I'll talk about how we can avoid falling into that growth trap by designing a scalable accounting firm business model. And I'll talk a little bit about the 6-part formula to creating a scalable accounting firm model. And I'll dive into each and every one of those components as well. So that's really on the agenda for today. But first, just a brief overview of myself. I'm a CPA born and raised here in Montreal, Canada. I started my accounting career at a very small traditional CPA firm. Worked there for about 5-6 years, obtained my CPA designation, went into industry only for about 6 months until I realized I wanted to start my own business. All my training and education was in accounting at that point in time. That was not my passion, but I did not want to throw that out the window. So I decided to start an accounting firm. But this accounting firm was going to be a little bit different. I started a firm called Xen Accounting in 2013. And it was one of the earlier online accounting firms in North America at the time. And the idea was really just to make people's lives easier. I was disillusioned with how accounting services were being delivered in the digital age to small businesses. I knew there was a lot of pain associated with accounting. And by creating an online firm that focused on using technology, I wanted to just make people's lives easier. At the same time, I wanted to create a business that would give myself a better life, give myself more freedom, more flexibility. And when I looked at other people running firms, I did not aspire to the kind of lifestyle that they had. I did not aspire to working 60, 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks or having crazy busy seasons. So I also wanted to make my life easier. So the theme when I started my firm is, how do I just make things easy? And I really bumbled around for the first few years trying to put all the different pieces together. I was very inexperienced. I was in my 20s, had never run a business before. I knew nothing about pricing, knew nothing about technology, knew nothing about marketing, very little about sales, had never hired or managed anyone in my life. So I was really starting on the wrong foot, and I really had to learn everything from the ground up. But my focus was make things easy. And when I put all the pieces together, I was able to create a model where I grew the team to a team of around 15 over a 5-year period, started getting a lot of interest from outside parties that wanted to acquire that kind of expertise, was acquired by a large corporate services firm based out of Europe in the Isle of Man of all places, flew over there, signed the deal, and started Future Firm at that point. And Future Firm is there to help accountants fast track the growth of a modern scalable firm that doesn't drive them into the ground. I provide a ton of free resources online through my blog, podcast, and newsletter. I've been coaching firms for the last 2 years, primarily 7-figure firms that want help putting everything cohesively together so that they can scale. And in January, I launched an online coaching membership called Future Firm Accelerate, which is an online platform that provides coaching through myself, a community of around 250 modern, forward-thinking entrepreneurial firm owners, and a variety of online trainings that help firms scale. So, how does this relate to you? Well, my story is not much different than a lot of firm owners, because when I started my firm, the idea was to give myself a better life. And certainly the idea was make more money with less effort than if I was employed somewhere. And I wanted to spend less time on the stuff I didn't want to do, namely file work and client work, and more time on the stuff that I wanted to do. I also had in the back of my mind that I was going to be creating an asset that would have some value at a later point in time, which could ultimately be sold. But the big thing is, most people, I think, generally want to start a business because they aspire towards balance and they aspire towards freedom, and they want to just enjoy their life as much as possible. And I feel a business is one way to help them get there. So I want to get into our first polling question. I'm not sure, Chris, if you're going to be putting this up.
Got
Perfect.
it. Yep.
So, awesome. So I'd like to know why people, why you decided to start your business in the first place. So I'll give you just a few seconds to go through that. And I'm always interested to see these results. All right, we got about 50% who's participated. Interesting results so far. All right, we're about 75% of the way there. Ready when you are, Chris. Thank you very much. So you could probably see the results on my screen here, but what came in first, 38% said to work on things I enjoy doing. And then second, even before making more money, is to have more freedom. So clearly, these are very big, important themes for those that are starting their own business or running an accounting firm. So we have these personal goals, we have these aspirations, and a growth mindset is often pursued to obtain those goals. And we feel that to make more money, we have to add more clients. That's going to add to our top line. And because we want to be working on the things we want to enjoy doing, which is more likely than not doing client work and file work, we then hire people so that they can be delegated to handle those kind of tasks. And from there, we feel that the larger we get and the more people we bring on board, the more we can kind of step back from the business and just focus on enjoying life and enjoying the things that we want to be ultimately spending our time in. So this growth mindset is often pursued to obtain our personal goals and aspirations. But growing a professional services business like an accounting firm is actually quite tough, and that's due to the nature of this kind of model. First off, the operations often gets quite difficult as we grow, because we can have dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of clients, which all have a variety of small tasks associated with each client, and each task is done a little bit differently for each client. So the operations gets more and more difficult as we grow and add more clients. We're also faced with a never-ending barrage of tight deadlines, which just adds to the stress. We need skilled talent to perform this work as we add more clients. We all know that competition for that talent is intense. That's why there's companies like Entigrity that exist that kind of help plug in talent when required. But still, it's one of the largest challenges that firms have, is finding that skilled talent. Clients aren't making things easier either. They expect better and faster, and we can thank the Ubers and the Amazons of the world for that, where they simply provide a service where we can access whatever we want with the click of a button. And on top of all this, only so much of our work can be automated. So Jeff spoke a little bit about some of the technology and automations that are available, but still the minority of what we do can be automated. So there's a big chunk of what we do that's manual. Put all this together, it means that as we grow a professional service business, it gets harder and harder to manage. And this then leads to what I'll call the professional services growth trap, because as we grow, the operations get more and more chaotic. We have to work longer hours to manage those operations. There's a lot of effort required to make that money that's desired. And the first thing that goes out the window is work-life balance. So we see this in the accounting industry. This is a pervasive issue throughout the profession. That work-life balance is generally quite poor across the board. So the first thing that firm owners seek as a solution to avoid this growth trap is automation. And we feel that the more automation and technology we put in place, the more we could avoid that growth trap from happening, the more we could avoid that chaos. But I'm here to say that technology alone is not going to magically solve your problem. It's part of the solution, but it's not the full solution. When I started, one of the reasons I know this is because when I started Future Firm, I actually started as a technology consultant. My first few mandates was providing reports to firms about how to improve their processes and the technology they use in their firm. The kind of firms that were coming to me initially were modern firms who are already using 30 or 40 or 50 different apps. They already had a bunch of automation in place, but they were still stuck in the growth trap. They still had poor work-life balance. They still weren't making the kind of money they wanted to make. They were still stuck in the operations. Things were still chaotic. So that really led me to think, well, if technology is not the solution, then what is the solution? And the more and more I thought about it, the more I realized that, well, we have to look at the entire business model, and we have to see what we can do to make this business model much more scalable. And I drew back on my experience running my firm. And what I wanted to, before I get into that, one thing I wanted to do is just define, what does scaling your business mean? And if you look online, a variety of definitions really pertain to software and technology companies. But I thought this one that I pulled from the HubSpot website was really applicable to professional services businesses, especially accounting firms. I'll just read through it quickly. Scaling your business means you're able to handle an increase in sales, work, or output in a cost-effective, reasonable manner. The word I want to highlight here is the word reasonable, because a lot of people are able to grow a firm, but that growth is unreasonable, meaning it takes 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week of your time. It means you have to go through crazy busy seasons. And again, there's a lot of chaos associated with the growth. When we scale, when we have a scalable model in place, we're able to add to the top line without driving yourself or your team into the ground. And when we do that, we can grow in a reasonable manner. So this is the definition I really like when it comes to scaling your business. And when it comes to scaling your business, I want us to think about your accounting firm like a standardized machine. It's almost like an engine where everything operates in a predictable, repeatable, systematic fashion, where things just flow in and flow out like clockwork. And we often don't think about our firm like a machine. But I think we can achieve this if we could look at standardizing as many elements of that machine as possible, which is going to lead us to my 6-part formula to creating a scalable accounting firm. And when we have all these different pieces working in tandem, that's when we can create a more scalable model. So we'll have a standardized customer base, a productized service offering, an inbound marketing engine, standardization of all processes, an aligned team that's all working together in the same direction, and automation through technology. When all of these components are put together, we'll have standardized as many elements of the business as possible. That will allow us to scale our firm. This is going to lead us to our second polling question. Wondering if you could launch this for me, Chris. Which part of the scaling formula do you think you need the most help with? Standardized customer base, productized service offering, an inbound marketing engine, standardization of all processes, or automation through technology? So we'll give you a couple seconds to run through that. All right, we're about 65% of the way there. All right, very good. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, so we have 28% coming in first place, where standardization of all processes is the area that people need the most help with. So I'll talk specifically about that. And next is putting an inbound marketing engine in place. That's typically one of the big things I see firms needing help with. So let's go through this. Part one of the formula is a standardized customer base. And it's not possible to create a scalable model unless we standardize who you're going to be working with. And this is really the starting point. And when I speak to most firms that I'm coaching, when I ask them, who's your target market? Who are you going after? The answer I typically get is we target small to mid-sized businesses between $0 in revenue and $100 million in revenue, and 0 employees and 100 employees. What that tells me is we're targeting 99% of the businesses out there. So it's just not possible to create a scalable model when we're targeting everybody. We need to segment the market in a particular fashion that allows us to easily sell the service, easily onboard the client, and then easily get the client in our routine. We can't do that unless we understand some of the nuances of the kind of clients that we're dealing with. If it takes us 3, 4, 5, 6 months to onboard a certain client and really understand their business well, we just can't have a scalable model in place. So it really starts with standardizing who you're going to be working with. The next part of this scaling formula is standardizing what you're offering. So this is going to come down to creating a productized service offer. And my definition of this, it's a little bit wordy. I dive into this in my Future from Accelerate program in a bit more detail, but a productized service is the packaging of value into a curated experience based around your value proposition delivered to your ideal clients in a repeatable, systematic way. And the part I want to focus on here is the repeatable, systematic way part. Because if we want to have, the last polling question said we want to standardize all processes, that's great. But it all starts at the offer level. If we don't standardize the offer level, getting them into your routine process is going to be very difficult as well. So I'll give you a few examples of a non-productized service versus a productized service, just to show you the difference. So this is something I pulled off just a random accounting firm's website. On the services tab, there's a laundry list of services that the firm will perform in any combination where the client is dictating how the service offer is going to look essentially. This is something that can't be delivered in a repeatable and systematic way. Contrast this with a productized service offer where you're packaging services and features together, and then you're going to sell that and deliver it like a product. This is actually, this example is from my previous firm, Xen Accounting. This is almost about 10 years old now, but I still think it holds true, where things were packaged in a way where it's meeting the firm's sweet spot. And anything below the firm's sweet spot, below that bronze plan, is going to be filtered out. And anything above the gold plan is also going to be filtered out, because this doesn't fit into the formula. This doesn't fit into the sweet spot of the firm. So we want to package services and features into the firm's sweet spot, filter out the clients that don't fit within that sweet spot. And we want to make sure that the team is aware of this formula as well, because then they'll be in a great position once we onboard the client to then deliver the work. So this is an example of how we standardize what we do. And then clients have to fit into that mold to a certain extent. So that's part 2 of the formula. Part 3 of the formula is putting an inbound marketing engine in place. It's not possible to scale a firm if we have to hunt for clients on a daily basis. We should have clients coming to us, and that's going to happen through an inbound marketing engine. And I recognize that marketing is very difficult for a lot of firms. I certainly understand that. When I started my firm, I had 0 experience in marketing. I learned it the hard way by trying out just about every strategy and failing miserably at most of them. But the one thing I landed on was content marketing. And content marketing made up the vast majority of my firm's revenues and almost all of my future firm revenues at the moment. And content marketing is just about sharing any kind of valuable information in the hope of building trust and developing a relationship with an intended audience. So an example of content marketing could be a webinar like this. It could be blogging. It could be YouTube videos, social media posts, anytime when you're sharing any kind of valuable information in the hopes of connecting with your audience. And I think this works very, very well for accounting firms because what we're doing with our content is we're developing trust with that audience. If we deliver valuable, helpful content, the audience then builds trust with you. And trust is paramount for any kind of accounting relationship, any kind of a relationship that you're going to have with your clients. So if we can build that early on in the marketing side of things, it becomes a lot easier to land those clients when they're ready to purchase. So we're not going to go through a variety of strategies here, but I'll let you know my most favorite strategy that has worked very, very, very well for me across 2 businesses has been regular search engine optimized blog post. Search engine optimization is basically the process of optimizing your article in a way that shows up favorably in Google search results when people type something into Google. So if I write, how do I file a tax return, and your article shows up on the first page, you're going to get people visiting your site. And then we have ways on how we can convert some of those visitors to leads and clients. So I struggled mightily with blogging in the early days. It's been almost 10 years where I've been learning how to blog in order to get leads and traffic to my site. Once I figured out the formula, I was able to duplicate it inside of Future Firm. So you can see right now in Future Firm, I'm getting close to 20,000 hits a month on a pretty small website where I'm only blogging maybe once every month, once every 2 months. So you don't have to do a ton of volume, but this is really the strategy that I use to pick up clients and leads. So if you're personally interested in building an inbound marketing engine and you want to see how I run my blogging strategy, you can download my 15-step blogging formula at futurefirm.co/15step. Okay, part 4 of the formula, standardization of all processes. So this was in our last polling question. This was what most people felt they need help with. And when we think about standardizing processes, we should think about standardizing more than just your service delivery processes, more than just your bank recs, your tax returns, your financial statements. There's a lot more processes in the firm that need to be standardized. We have a sales and marketing process, sales and pricing process, marketing processes, customer onboarding processes, all processes related to employees, reporting, and the big one is strategy. And I might have seen on Jeff's whiteboard that he talked a little bit about this. I might not have caught that, but strategy is actually probably one of the most important processes to standardize and to get right if we're going to create a scalable model. Most firms are lacking any kind of strategic planning whatsoever, which means we're just bouncing around from shiny object to shiny object, and we're lacking traction in the business. But there is a process to implementing a plan and then updating that plan regularly. Very, very important process not to neglect. Next, part 5 of the formula, an aligned team. We can have all the other elements that I just mentioned completely ironed out, but if you don't have a team in place that's all working in the same direction, the scaling formula will fall apart. And there's 3 areas to focus on when it comes to having a team that's aligned. First, has the team bought into the vision? Well, first, do we have a vision, and has the team bought into that vision? This is the North Star that everybody is working towards. And that's important because we need everybody working in the same direction. Second, a shared set of values. Very important if we want the team gelled together and all working well together, that they share the same values. And third is a regular open communication on the plan of attack. So we have a strategic plan in place. The team is communicated on that plan, and then there's a regular update on where our priorities lay and how we're trending towards our vision. With all these pieces together, that's when we could ensure that we have a team that's much more aligned in place to help us move one step forward in that scaling formula. All right, and the last part of the scaling formula is technology to automate processes. I downplayed the importance of technology a little bit earlier in this presentation, but it's still a very important component of the scaling formula. So obviously we need to automate as much as possible. The more we automate, the more
I don't know where your
scalable.
slipper left.
Yeah, obviously the more we automate, the more scalable we can become. So, but we do need to have some of those other elements in place first. We need to have your processes in place and standardized first. We need to be standardizing who, which is your standardization of your customer base. We need to be standardizing your what, which is your productized service offer. When we have all of these elements working together and then we apply technology to it, this is when we'll really reap the real benefits of automation. So if you're looking for more help in any of these areas, so we talked about how to create a more standardized accounting firm model, how we can have 6 different elements working together to help us avoid falling into that chaotic professional services growth trap. If you're looking for more help developing a more modern, scalable firm, I'd be more than happy to welcome you inside the Future Firm Accelerate community. As I mentioned, there's around 250 modern, forward-thinking, entrepreneurial accountants in there, all collaborating on best practices, all sharing what's working well, and all working together to help work out some of their challenges. In that platform, over and above the community, there's also my Future Firm Playbook, which is online trainings on all areas required to help create a scalable accounting firm model, along with some coaching from myself as well. So if anyone's looking for help, if anyone's stuck and they need my assistance, I'm very active in the community, and there's some group coaching available as well. So be more than happy to welcome you. I'm offering for everyone attending this presentation 30 days access for just $24. You could get the coupon on your screen, futurefirmaccelerate.com/Entigrity. This is good for the next 48 hours. There's no obligation to continue afterwards. You can cancel anytime. And after the promo, it's $95 a month. So more than happy to welcome you for anyone that needs a little bit more help. And on top of that, I also have a bunch of free resources on my blog, podcast, and newsletter. So for anyone that just wants to follow along, be more than happy to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can sign up to my newsletter, or feel free to just check out a few more details about Future Firm Accelerate at futurefirmaccelerate.com. So I think that's it for me. I want to thank everyone for joining me. It was good to see a few familiar faces here. And Chris, once again, thank you very much to you and the Entigrity team for inviting me in.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. Thanks for your time and joining us today. Really good, insightful information.